Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Dottie Berry, kind of known as Coach B in the pickleball world, and sort of like since I was 15 years old and started coaching. Yeah, my tagline is Born to Coach. But anyway, I'm really excited about what we're going to be talking about today because I think it's something that pertains to a lot of us in life and in pickleball, and that is the art of noticing. But before I get started here, I just want to say that. We are all part of Pickleball Forum for Women, and we have a private Facebook group. But here's the great news: we are sharing this with all of you on this live stream because we think what we've got to talk about applies not just to women, but to men as well, whether you're in pickleball or whether you're not in pickleball. So, our Pickleball Forum for Women, even though I created it, I got to say, Blake and Tracy have really stepped up, and Kay would have too, but she's not on Facebook. So thank you, Kay. But in our pickleball forum for women, they're administrators, but let me tell you, they are more than administrators. They are right there on the cutting edge with everything that we're doing. And what are we doing? Well, we're working to bring in the mental game of pickleball because I believe and they believe that it's the most undertrained skill in pickleball and it most dramatically impacts your game both on and off the court, because I like to say how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're struggling with something hitting you up the side of the head on the pickleball court and it's not the ball, well, that's probably happening off the court as well. But let me get started by properly introducing our coaches. And first of all, let me go to Tracy Wilcox. And Tracy was the first one of this group that went through my Mental Edge, the X Factor coaching that is rooted in positive intelligence. And she and Dave both went through that. And it was an honor and a privilege to work with both of them, I have to tell you. And they are the owners of Dynamite Pickleball, both in California and beautiful Santa Barbara, where we'll soon be having a retreat for women, and also in Texas. Now, Blake is, oh, let me also say this: Tracy will soon be trained as a coach with positive intelligence. She's finishing that up now. And so we're glad to have her on board. Also, Blake McMurray, not only has she just become a coach in positive intelligence, she went through the program with me, and she's also an Optiva coach. Did I pronounce that right,
No,
Blake?
Optiva. It's close.
You know, you all know I can mispronounce any word in the English language, so I'm always grateful when somebody steps up and gives me some assistance. Thank you, Blake. Anyway, Blake is amazing in her own right, both on and off the court, and coaches on the court as well. Of course, Tracy obviously does, having Dynamite Pickleball. Kay Quall is an amazing friend of mine from Mount Vernon, which is just south of where I live in Birch Bay, Washington. And Kay and I both are certified in dynamite doubles that Hella Spar put together a program, a legacy program, I call it. Anyway, we're excited that you're here with us too, Kay. And Kay also, with Vincent, her partner, just went through the program with me, and now she is considering becoming a coach. So she's in the process of examining that. So let's get started. Let me just kind of set the stage. I like to listen to podcasts, and then you all know I share these podcasts with you. I can't help myself. You know, sometimes you may go, why is she sharing all this with us? But the first one I shared was Mel Robbins, and it's called Let Them. Oh, a powerful podcast. We're not going to talk about that one today, but I highly recommend that you go find that one. And then the next one I listened to was on the Huberman podcast. And I love Dr. Andrew Huberman. You know, the truth is, his podcasts are 2 and 3 hours long. And if I ever thought I would listen to something that long, I'd say you're crazy. But I do it in chunks, you know, listen to bits at a time. So this one was with Dr. Ellen Langer. And she was talking about the art of noticing and mindfulness and how that impacts our aging process. Now, y'all, this is not just some woo-woo thing. This lady is the top lady in science with the studies that she's done. So I highly recommend that you go check that one out. But what it did for me is I said, okay, how can I apply this to pickleball? She's talking about a framework of noticing. And I said to myself, this is so important because, y'all, my number one saboteur is restless. Oh my gosh. So take me to the pickleball court, and I've just got to like key in somehow. So I just thought, well, I'm going to go to the pickleball court and I'm going to do what she said. Notice 3 new things. All right, but I'm applying it to pickleball. And I did this. And the just the joy that came through me for just being on the pickleball court that day. And actually at the end of the pickleball, in our last game, we were down 0-7, and I just noticed versus judged that some of our points were lost because I made unforced errors. So I just noticed that. And all of a sudden we came back and we won the game 11-9. And it wasn't about winning, it was about what I noticed and was able to shift in that moment. And people actually came up and asked me about it. Said, well, like, what were you doing all of a sudden down 0-7 and it was 11-9 and you beat us? I said, I was just noticing. And they said, what? Yeah. Anyway, enough of an introduction. Let's get to it. And anybody who wants to jump in and talk about how you've been noticing recently that's shifting your mental game, share it with us, okay?
Well, when you said you wanted to talk about noticing, I'm like, what is our topic? Like, what does that even mean? But what I discovered last year through going through this, it is kind of what that does for you. What noticing does for you is it makes you become present. And that's what I realized with doing all this mental fitness work is I was spending so much time on the pickleball court on what I just did wrong. And then what I needed to fix it. Like that took up all the space in my brain. Well, there was a little space for being super critical of myself in the middle of that. So I'm sandwiched between these two things, all the things I did wrong, all the things I need to remember to do. And I'm so mad at myself because I should do better than that. Like that whole package just locks you up. Like it locks you up. You're not present at all. So when Dottie was teaching me, like, neutralize all that, just like that's a data. If you missed it, it's a data point. Like neutralize it. When I could quiet my mind and be present, oh, guess what? Then I could be in the next point while I was playing it, as opposed to just totally being in my head. So I think noticing is part of that's just a tool to help you become really present.
Yeah, think about it. Nothing is good or bad in and of itself. Something only becomes good or bad because we label it that way. And a friend one time told me that labels are only for jelly jars. And I loved that. I was like, yes, why am I labeling myself? Why am I judging myself? And so that's great insight, Blake. Let's see what anybody else has to say about it. Tracy, Kay, jump in here.
Well, I just came back from a yoga retreat. And what I noticed is I was comparing and contrasting yoga versus pickleball. And when I'm in the yoga
Mm.
room, I'm on my mat, I'm in my body, and I do zero amount of comparing myself to the other people. And I don't walk away being mad at myself. Like, why am I not flexible in my hamstrings? When is that going to open up? There's no shame. My body is my body, and I'm doing my best. When I get on the pickleball court, it's us versus them. How can we beat them? I'm making too many mistakes. I'm in my head, and I'm all of a sudden I'm not in my body. I'm outside of my body, and it's almost like I don't even have control what's going on. And so if I can start to notice of what's going on for me inside, take a breath. And a lot of times I'll even say to myself, we have all the time in the world. There's no hurry. And when I start to calm my body down and look at the pickleball court like a yoga room, now I'm in my body. And so that's been something that I've been noticing of how I am on the pickleball court compared to where I am in life.
Wow, that's amazing, Kay. That's really super insight. And it sounds like you're tagging it to something where you already know I'm in my body.
Yes.
Because when I'm in my body on the pickleball court, it reminds me of when Tyson McGuffin, when he first came up and did a clinic for me, I still laugh about it. He said, Dottie, you have so much more time to hit the ball than you realize. I had no clue what he was talking about. I
Mhm.
was like, I do. And now, as it begins to slow down, as I increase, first of all, being present and noticing, and I'm in my body. So then my body can do what it already knows to do instead of my mind tricking myself out and preventing what I actually know how to do and do well at times. So
So
Tracy, I know you've got some. Oh, go
let
ahead,
me
Blake.
just say before we go ahead, because if I hadn't already been having conversations with y'all, I'd be like, I'm always in my body. Like, what are you talking about? So can you clarify what you mean by that?
Yeah, Kay, go ahead.
So for me, when I'm in my head, it's where the judge lives. It's where if I miss 2 or 3 points in a row, I start thinking my partner is never going to want to play with me again. I am doing terrible. I need to fix this and that. And I don't even know what the score is. So I'm absent-minded. I'm worrying about things that I don't have control over. When I'm in my body, and if I miss 3 shots, I can think, it might be a smart idea to take a time out or take a deep breath and let that go, flush what just happened, and get in your body and let your muscle memory take over from here on out. So there's just a difference for me from the head to the heart to the body.
Yeah, I'm going to just inject something real quick because this is from Dr. Ellen Langer. She calls that mindlessness. When we're not noticing, she said we're mindless versus mindful. So just a little distinction there. And I can't help but thinking when you're saying flushing, well, I'm going to flush that stuff. I'm going to let go of it, whatever it takes, huh? Hey, good insights, Blake and Kay. Thank you so much. And Tracy, I know you're dying to have some input here, and I know you've got lots of it. She's kept quiet as long as she can.
Well, I was kind of like Blake. I was like, okay, let's notice. And then when I started to realize how much, like, I hadn't noticed what I was noticing, if that makes sense, then I was like, oh, I noticed a whole lot. And what are the things I want to notice? I think we have more control over the things we want to notice versus what we don't want to notice. But so I was telling you the story, and I'll go back to it. But I woke up at 3 a.m. and I'm getting ready for a tournament. So I'm training a lot with my partner. And so we have some video. So I got up at 3 a.m. and started watching the video because I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't sleep.
Whoa.
So anyways, it was really interesting because there was zero distractions. I was able to start noticing the video and really tuning in actually to why I missed a shot. And so I was noticing even in my body language, I could tell I was going to miss the shot even before I hit the shot because obviously I already knew I had missed the shot because I could then start noticing that there was some doubt in me in the shot. And it was really like, it was such a cool, like, notice moment to be like connecting what I was thinking at that very second in the video. And then what happened after that, like, it was a little bit mind boggling. I couldn't even believe it. So, since I've been doing a lot of video analysis stuff and getting in that, I'm starting to notice. So that was one thing that was super cool, just looking at the video. And then, I do notice a lot on the and on the pickleball court. I spend a lot of time like noticing my body position and and I think for you, Dottie, you were noticing like the trees and the wind and the balls. I'm super analytical when I'm out there on the court. And Kay, I think what's a little bit different between yoga and the pickleball court is that the pickleball court has gives feedback right away, right? Like you're either going to make a point, miss a point. You really, when you get the ball, you're going to have you're going to have two options, right? To either make it or miss it. Like those are your two options, right? And so you're getting feedback on every single time you hit a ball. So that's where we are going to have more challenges on a pickleball court than on a yoga mat because we're getting feedback all the time, good and bad, right? And so then we have to make a decision. Do we judge every single time we hit a ball? I'm working on this with my partner. I don't want him to say sorry to me every single time he misses a point. He's either going to make the point or miss the point. That's the whole neutralizing aspect, right? So I guess my point is that I want to start noticing some of those other things like you, Dottie, like and because I think that returns us back to the gratitude, which we talked about as one of our let it go strategies. I think noticing brings me back to gratitude, because I can start noticing like so much of the game, like I can't hit here and I can't hit here, but sometimes that's a lot of overthinking. But I think noticing for me, unlike the mindlessness, I tend to overthink. And I think the noticing brings me back to more of a just breathe, just let it go. Let's gratitude. Let's like notice the beautiful trees and the beautiful people I'm playing against and playing with. Notice, so that's what noticing has done for me.
Oh, that's great, Tracy. And super insights on the distinction between, there's no missed ball in yoga. And so Kay doesn't get to judge herself. And so here's the challenge. This is what's so exciting. We get opportunity after opportunity to improve our self-command muscle, and quickly in the moment by moment mind shifts move from saboteur to sage. And for you all who don't know that difference, people get upset when they have to look at their saboteurs. I go, oh my gosh, look at them, because they're your strengths. See, being restless is actually a strength until it's not. It enables me to be excited about a lot of different things, to do a lot of different things. But only when I overuse it and abuse it does it become a saboteur. So the flip side of our saboteur is our strength. So I'm working on learning to utilize that more. Now, I have to be honest, when I was in the hot tub this morning, I was like distracted. And I realized, but I noticed that I wasn't noticing being in the hot tub, because you know what I was thinking about? Today and our live stream that we were going to do. And I just cracked up laughing at myself. I mean, here I am in the hot tub by myself, laughing like a crazy person. But I noticed, wow, I'm not being present to this wonderful hot tub. By noticing that I wasn't noticing, that gave me some presence. So that was really exciting for me, because, that doesn't always happen. And I'm just working on it, every day of my life. Yeah, Blake?
All right, I have a question. So when you were talking about Tyson said the game slows down, is that tied into being fully present?
I think it is, because when we are in the zone, if you look at the 4 stages of learning, the first one is when we don't know, we don't know. We're like asleep. And then when we become aware of maybe a shot we don't know, or we don't know pickleball strategy, then that's our first aha moment. And we go, so I need to learn something. So then we go to the 3rd stage of learning, and we're thinking all the time. Think, 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 think. In the 4th stage, that is the flow. That's when we have no thought. We complete a task, we complete a skill, we complete whatever, and the game literally slows down. Not only does it slow down, but we hope when it's in the 3rd game of a match and it's game point that they hit it to us. Bring it on. I want it. Not like, it's the same in basketball. The person who wants the ball at the end, because they care not whether they lose or win, they just want the ball. It's so different from the person who can make the shot, but it's like, oh my God, coach, don't call on me to take that shot. Even though they would make it 10 out of 10 times if it weren't the winning point of the game. So I think it works the same way. I think that's a great question, Blake. What do you all think about it?
I was thinking like the opposite forum we'd have today is, let's talk about our brains being hijacked. Like, how do you play when your brain's hijacked? Like, that's the other side. It's the overthinking side.
Yeah.
Well, again, I've been watching a lot of film. And so I was watching some film of Academy, and there's this one point, it's just like this beautiful, awesome point, and there's some chaos, and this team resets and they move in. I wasn't playing, it was these 4 Academy men. And then there's like dinking, and then one boy, one of the guys just hit it really hard, and I call it the panic attack. And it was like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, you just hit a ball hard because you like the tension of the rally gets higher as the more the rally goes on, the more the tension goes on, right? And so I can understand why he did it, because he was afraid that he was going to be the one to mess up the rally, right? It was that fear that went into his head. And so then he was like, pull the trigger. And we're always working on aggression, like look to be aggressive. But I find that when, personally for me, the more confident I know in what I'm supposed to shoot, or like what shot I'm supposed to take, or where I'm supposed to hit the ball, if I'm more focused on that and I know that, then the game slows down. Like Dottie's saying, it's like the game will completely slow down because I can just be confident in where I am. And then my brain is going towards what I'm going to do versus not knowing what I'm going to do. Because when I don't know what I'm going to do, then the game speeds up, right? Because then my brain's going through like 10 different options, and then it's like super fast. And then, then you hit the panic attack button, right? You just hit the button. So anyways, that's for me, that's how I slow the game down. And I feel like as I get better, the game slows down a little bit more for me, because I have more, my decision is being made faster than when I don't know what I'm going to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way you're looking at that. And I think each of us is trying to, reach that level where we have some flow and the game is slowing down so that we can consciously, unconsciously make decisions, if that makes sense. And it actually, it's an unconscious consciousness, because we're doing it without thought. And I think about how you were talking about video analysis today. Tracy, I don't know if you saw it in your post. I was like, do me, and then I was like, what am I thinking? No, I do want to do
How
that,
do you want me to
because
do
the times
you?
that I have
Okay.
videoed myself, I was quite astounded. Yeah.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
too. And
do that video of me and help me out here. No, so I'm looking.
it's so helpful for your eyes to see your body move, because your brain thinks you're doing something different.
That's true.
UK, you want to get some video going with Tracy videoing us?
I do. I like being videotaped because it does show the truth. What you think or how you played shows up for the positive of this is what it does actually look like when you're on the video. For me, slowing the game down though is keeping my eye on the ball. If I'm thinking too much about where I'm going to put the ball and that's where my eye is, I'm going to miss. And so if I can keep my eye on the ball and have that be the focus, and also when it's coming off of the other person's paddle, of to pay attention of where are they going to place the ball and how can I keep following the ball so I can keep my eye on it. That keeps me calmer instead of worrying too much of I don't want to make the mistake. I don't want the ball that's going, and I don't want to be that last person. When I get there, I'm back in my head. When I'm keeping my eye on the ball, I'm in my body and I'm into the flow of the game.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I've been stuck in category
I kind of
3.
use a both and approach, Kay. Okay. Yeah. So what I was going to say is I try to use a both and approach, Kay. I try sort of like in basketball, where I am like watching the ball, of course, but I'm also using my peripheral vision, because if I get too tuned in to totally watching it, then I miss the other things that I need to pay attention to, and things happen very, very fast. And so I'm working myself to do a both and approach, rather than, and I do understand what you're talking about. If I look across as the ball's coming, then I'm looking where I want the ball to go. But again, I say a both and, so that I see the ball, but I'm aware in my peripheral vision of the other things here, so that I can do better with this. Now, being almost 72, my hand speed is obviously going to be less than Kay's hand speed, and it's going to be less than Blake's and Tracy's. but hey, I come to battle. You know, I'm going to give it my best, like Kay was saying. And when I do that, I'm okay with it, man. I get 4 hand battles in a row. If they toast me at the end, I'm not totally, upset because, oh gosh, they beat me. Heck, it's like two people being at the non-volley zone line. You're supposed to win. Come on. You're supposed to put it away on me. I'm not supposed to be able to get that from you if we're the serving team, so to speak. Anyway, just how it impacts me.
Yeah. Good thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate the tips because I feel like I've been stuck in category 3 for a long time and have not moved to the slow it down phase. And a lot of that is why I started doing this mental work in the first place. It was to get better at pickleball because I realized I was so critical, because I realized I was coaching myself nonstop. I was overthinking everything. It's the opposite of flow. Like I was just in total fix it mode, and it's the opposite of flow state. So I've definitely made progress, but I have a ways to go. So I appreciate y'all's tips.
It's interesting because as we talk about this, I'm starting to realize that on the pickleball court, we kind of have two options, right? We have the option to be in our mind about the fears and the doubts and all that, or we have the option to be in that flow state and be very mindful in the notice. And the thing that's interesting about this one keeps you in your mind, right? Which then slows you down. This one takes you out of your mind and helps you slow down the game, right? And then make the better decisions and be in that, like we call it, the flow. So it's an interesting because I think it's a choice. But I don't think it's interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting because one we need to be in our mind about, right? Like we need to be in our mind that we're not allowing this to happen and we want this to happen, but it's leading us to be out of our mind. It's tricky because at first it's going to start with being in your mind and noticing so that you can get out of your mind.
Yeah.
But
I like how you put that because a lot of us are in that reaction state I feel like I'm in fight or flight a lot of times when I'm playing. I'm overthinking. I don't know different. But then there's this other state, the flow state that you can bring in. You have to be aware you're in the fight or flight state to be like, okay, I want to shift. And then it's not just knowledge that, okay, if I'm mindful and be present and start noticing, you're not automatically better. Like this is a skill that you have to start building. So it's awareness of it. Mm-hmm. This skill of noticing, of being in the present will help improve my game because it'll get me closer to the flow state. But then you just have to practice. You just have to keep practicing it to build the skill.
Okay, so let's be more practical here. So when we are in this mind where we're doubtful, fearful, and we notice, how do we get from here to here?
Well, one thing that I do when I'm in my head is I'm not looking at pickleball as a team sport. All of a sudden, it becomes very individualized because I'm in my head. And for me to get out of my head is to have gratitude for my partner, to paddle tap, to make eye contact, to even maybe say, where are you going to return the serve? So then I know. And have some communication, you, me. And all of a sudden, when I get outside of my head, and this is a partnership, now I'm sinking more into my body because there's two of us and it's not all about me. So
that's noticing the fear and that's shifting over here, right? That's a shift you're making in the moment.
In the moment, yes.
And I think the really important thing is you're right. When I'm hijacked, when I'm in fear mode, I'm thinking me. What am I going to fix? What am I going to do? Yeah. It is so self-focused in that moment. You just can't get out of it. Yeah.
But just noticing that, the amazing part of noticing that is that it pulls you out of it. So that's just a side benefit, I would say. And I wanted to go back a minute when you were talking about the fight or flight. One of the things about fight or flight is it puts your heartbeat up to over 100 beats a minute. The other thing it does is it narrows your vision. and it pulls your hearing in. And this is why, because evolutionary speaking, we needed to be in flight or fight mode to fight the animals, and that has not gone out of our systems. And so we can get triggered by that real quick. But a real high heart rate over 100 beats a minute does not help us. This is why in disagreements with partners on or off the court, personal or otherwise, we later can't even remember what we were fighting about, because we literally have not. Somebody say, you said this. No, I didn't. You literally do not hear it, because see, your hearing has been pulled in such a way to be very focused, your sight as well, so that you can find the wild animals. And I use this in, I've coached a lot in relationships as well. So when this happens on the court, that's when we need to go to one of our PQ reps, which is anything we do for 10 seconds. And guess what? Even in a tournament, when the referee calls the score, you have 10 seconds before you have to do anything. And so a PQ rep, positive intelligence quotient rep, is a mental gym rep, just like you do a physical gym rep, that lasts for 10 seconds. That could be deep breathing. That could be doing this, where you're just bringing yourself into your body by taking your fingers and rubbing against themselves. Or it could be this. It could be rubbing the back of your hand with your paddle hand. So these things, and just noticing where our minds have been taken, brings us back to the present moment. So it's so simple. And that's why Dr. Ellen Langer calls it a framework for life, not a specific skill, task, whatever. It's a framework for approaching and questioning in life. And again, I just say, go listen to her 3 hours. It sounds crazy when it's just distilled down to that, but it's very worthwhile, I believe, to listen to. So I know we're trying to kind of end it up here, but any other insights on your noticing and what that's been doing for you in noticing?
Well, I'll end in just saying that back to I was noticing the video and me missing a shot. And I also noticed that I had told myself this story in the game that that this one shot of mine wasn't working. And then I started to tally how many times the shot actually worked, and it worked more than it didn't work, but I allowed the 1 or 2 times it didn't work to then sway what I was doing. So I guess my notice in that was that I was telling myself a story that wasn't true, and I was believing it, and I wasn't staying neutral in the story, in the actual storyline, and seeing it for what it was. And I was very much living in fear of losing the shot again, but it was my superpower shot. And so I needed to just trust it. So anyways, that's kind of my wrap up. I'm still so in process on figuring out how to notice earlier. Like I wish I would have noticed in the game, not like after, like 5 hours later looking at the video. And that's where I'm probably lacking right now, is to make that connection earlier. So I know for me that's what I'm gonna work on, is making earlier connections to my the story I'm telling myself and the fears and the doubt that I'm putting in place before, during the game and in the moment, and trying to make that shift in the moment.
But how exciting, Tracy, that you did notice it, because now, had you not noticed that, you couldn't apply anything to the game in the future.
Yep.
So rather than going, oh, I wish I had noticed it in the 5 hour, hey, just that you noticed it is going to give you a superpower to apply the next time and the next time. Because in positive intelligence, we often ask ourselves, what's next? What's needed now? And when we stop and we ask ourselves that one little question, oh my goodness, it can shift everything. And then we notice and we can go on and on from there. Anybody else have any parting words as we end up our noticing live stream for today?
One thing I appreciate about these conversations.
All righty then. Well, here's what yeah. Go ahead, Kay.
What I am thankful for is that these are vulnerable conversations. most people on the pickleball courts do not talk about what's going on inside of their head. And I feel that if we can talk about this and put some light on it, it really does lighten it up. And you also don't feel so alone because you realize other people are doing the very same thing that we're doing. And the only way we're going to improve is to have healthy conversations.
Yeah, I'll say too, thanks, because like I love growing and
Absolutely,
I
Kay.
can
And
only
so
grow
what I
so
would
fast on my own, but
go ahead.
growing with other people, like
Mhm.
us having these conversations and bringing you guys into these conversations with us, like a rising tide raises all ships. Like that's what we're doing. We're trying to talk through and find tangible tools, little skills that we can do to improve it for all of us. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And just as we end here, you see scrolling down below there is a link. If you are interested in joining us for our upcoming retreat in beautiful Santa Barbara at Tracy and Dave's Courts, we're all going to be there. And I'm excited because each of you is a tremendous coach. And I've told Blake, even though you've been going through some injuries right now, the exciting part is guess what? You can still be learning mentally off the court so that when you come back on the court, you're ready to embrace some things that you weren't ready to do prior to that. And so we're going to be there working on the physical game, working on the mental game, working holistically. Kay will be there doing some exciting things with your feet, you know. Oh my gosh, reflexology. I love it. I'm first. I'm first. Anyway, we're excited to have everybody coming and we'll look forward to our next live stream. And who knows what that topic will be. In fact, if you have an idea you want us to talk about, let us know. We'll talk about anything. All right. Thanks, you all. Talk to you later. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Bye.